But there's one mine in particular, up in the Slate Range west of Trona, that I came across while I was going through some old San Bernardino County mining records. And the thing that caught my attention wasn't the mine itself. It was the fact that it was sealed. Now, mines get sealed all the time. The BLM has been closing up old mines for decades to keep people from falling in. That's not unusual. But this one wasn't sealed by the BLM. According to the records I found, this mine was sealed in 1903 by order of the local sheriff, and the reason listed was simply public safety. No further explanation. That struck me as strange. In 1903, there was no BLM. That struck me as strange. In 1903, there was no BLM. There was no OSHA. Nobody was going around sealing mines for safety reasons. If a mine was dangerous, you just didn't go in it. Maybe you'd put a sign up. Maybe you'd tell people at the saloon to stay away from it. But you didn't get the sheriff involved. You didn't file paperwork. The fact that a sheriff took it upon himself to seal a mine and put it on record is, well, it's not normal. It suggests that whatever was down there, someone with authority decided the public shouldn't be able to get to it. So I started digging, and I want to be upfront here. A lot of what I found is pieced together from old newspaper clippings, mining records, and a couple of letters that ended up in the archives at the Searles Valley Historical Society. So, some of this is solid and some of it is me connecting dots that might not actually connect. But I think it's a story worth telling either way. The mine was originally called the Slate Range Silver No. 4. It was one of several claims filed in 1879 by a man named Josiah Harlan. Harlan was a prospector out of Virginia City, Nevada. He'd come south after the Comstock started drying up, like a lot of men did in that era. When the big money dried up in Nevada, prospectors scattered across the desert like seeds in the wind, hoping to land somewhere that would pay. Harlan filed 4 claims in the Slate Range, and for a few years, he actually pulled decent silver out of them. His assay reports show some respectable numbers. Not Comstock numbers, but enough to keep a man going. He had a small camp set up near the entrance, hired a couple of men from Panamint City to help with the digging. By most accounts, he was doing fine. But the No. 4 shaft was different from his other claims. It went deep. Most of the small silver mines in the area were shallow, maybe 100, 200 feet at most. But according to Harlan's own records, the No. 4 shaft went down over 900 feet. That's deep for any mine, but for a small operation in the middle of nowhere with no railroad access, that's almost unheard of. The question is why? Why would a single prospector keep digging that deep? Silver doesn't usually work that way. You follow a vein, and when it runs out, you stop. But Harlan kept going. His supply records show he was buying blasting powder and timber supports well into 1884, 5 years after he started. Then, in 1885, the records just stop. No more supply orders, no more assay reports, no more anything. Harlan doesn't show up in any California records after that year. He didn't file a death certificate in San Bernardino County. He didn't sell the claim. He just wasn't there anymore. Now, people disappeared all the time in the 1880s, especially prospectors. The desert took a lot of men and didn't bother telling anyone about it. So Harlan vanishing isn't necessarily mysterious on its own. What is mysterious is what happened 18 years later. In 1903, a group of prospectors from Randsburg, which is about 30 miles south of Trona, went up into the Slate Range looking for new claims. They came across the No. 4 shaft. According to a short article in the Randsburg Miner, which was the local newspaper at the time, 3 men entered the mine. 2 of them came back out within an hour. The article doesn't say what they saw down there. It just says that they reported the mine to the sheriff in Randsburg, and that within a week, the sheriff had the entrance sealed with timber and rock. The 3rd man, a prospector named Clarence Duval, apparently refused to go back in after reaching what he described as a lower chamber. Now, here's where it gets frustrating. The Randsburg Miner article is only about 4 inches long. It reads more like a notice than a news story. It doesn't describe what the men found. It doesn't explain why the sheriff sealed the mine. It just reports that it happened. I tried to find follow-up articles. Nothing. I tried to find records from the sheriff's office. Nothing from that era survived. The Randsburg Miner itself only ran for a few years, and most of its issues are lost. What I did find was a letter, written in 1911, from a man named Thomas Brewer to his brother in Ohio. Brewer was a miner who worked in Randsburg and apparently knew Clarence Duval personally. In the letter, Brewer mentions the Slate Range mine and says that Duval told him there were bones arranged in a way that wasn't natural in the lower chamber, and that the air down there smelled wrong, like metal and something sweet. That's all he says about it. The rest of the letter is about the weather and the price of supplies in town. Now, I want to be careful here. Bones arranged in a way that wasn't natural could mean a lot of things. It could be a burial site. Native Americans use caves and mines for burials in some areas, and it's entirely possible that the number 4 shaft broke through into a natural cave system that had been used for that purpose long before Harlan ever showed up. The Slate Range was in the territory of several groups, the Kawaizou to the west, the Timbisha Shoshone to the north. Both groups had spiritual connections to certain caves and underground places. It could also be something far more mundane. It could be an animal den. Mountain lions will drag prey into dark places. Pack rats build enormous nests from bones and sticks. And it could be that Duval saw some rocks that looked like bones in the bad light of a carbide lamp 900 feet underground. Your mind plays tricks on you in places like that. The dark does things to people, but the fact that the sheriff sealed it, and the fact that nobody ever reopened it, and the fact that the record specifically says public safety with no further explanation, I don't know. It sits with you. It's the kind of thing where any single piece of it has a reasonable explanation, but all of it together feels like something was deliberately left alone. As far as I can tell, the mine is still sealed. The Slate Range isn't easy to get to, and there's not a lot of reason for anyone to go up there. If you look at satellite imagery of the area, you can see old mine scars all over the mountains. But good luck figuring out which one is the number 4 from a satellite. Whatever is down there, it's been sitting in the dark for over 120 years. All right, let's shift gears and talk about something a little less dark but equally strange. About 40 miles northeast of Trona, out past the Searles Valley and into the empty stretch between there and Death Valley Junction, there's a road. And this one I stumbled on completely by accident. I spent a lot of time looking at maps, old USGS topos, mining surveys, BLM land records. When you spend enough time looking at maps of the Mojave, you start to get a feel for how things connect, where the roads go and why, where the water is, where people tried to build some things and failed. After a while, things that are out of place start to jump out at you. And this road jumped out at me. And I use the word road loosely. It's paved, or at least it was paved at some point. 2 lanes, faded yellow center line, crumbling at the edges, standard desert road. Except for one thing, it doesn't go anywhere. I first noticed it on Google Earth. I was looking at old mining roads in the area, and I saw this paved road that just ends. It comes off a county road, runs roughly northeast for about 7 miles, and then stops. No turnaround, no intersection, no building, no foundation, no mine, no nothing. It just ends in the desert, like someone ran out of asphalt and went home. You can actually see the end of it pretty clearly on satellite view. The pavement just stops, and then there's nothing but creosote bush and dirt for miles in every direction. There's not even a logical place it could have been heading toward. The next paved road in that direction is over 20 miles away, on the other side of a mountain range. At first I figured it was an abandoned access road to something that was demolished. That's common out here. The military built roads all over the Mojave during World War II, and the Cold War for testing sites, bases, airstrips, radar installations. Most of them lead to something, even if that something is now just a concrete slab or a chain link fence around nothing. But this road doesn't lead to any concrete slab. There's nothing at the end of it. No cleared land, no foundation, nothing on any aerial photographs going back to the 1950s. I went through the San Bernardino County road records. The road doesn't have a name or a number in any current database. I checked Caltrans records. Nothing, and I checked with the BLM since a lot of the land out there is federal. They have no record of building or maintaining it. Then I found something interesting. In a 1958 USGS topographic map of the area, the road is marked. It's shown as a light-duty road, which means it was paved but not heavily maintained. But here's the thing. On the 1952 topo map of the same area, it's not there. So, the road was built sometime between 1952 and 1958. Now, that time period in that part of the Mojave means one thing: the military. Between 1951 and 1962, the Nevada test site was conducting above-ground nuclear tests just over the state line. The entire region was crawling with military and government activity. China Lake Naval Weapons Station is just to the west. Edwards Air Force Base is to the south, Fort Irwin is to the north. But here's the problem. I can't find any military record of this road. It's not in any declassified documents from China Lake. It's not in any NTS records that I've been able to access. It's not associated with any known test site or monitoring station. I even reached out to a guy who runs a blog about Cold War history in the Mojave. He's been documenting abandoned military sites out here for years. He'd never heard of it. One theory I have is that it was built as an instrumentation road. During the nuclear tests at the Nevada test site, they placed monitoring equipment at various distances from ground zero to measure blast effects, radiation, seismic activity. Some of these monitoring stations were placed in California, well south of the Nevada border. The government wanted to know how far the effects traveled, so they set up instruments in a wide radius. It's possible this road was built to access one of those stations, and when the above-ground tests ended in 1962 with the Test Ban Treaty, the equipment was removed and the road was just left there. Nobody was going to bother ripping up 7 miles of asphalt in the middle of nowhere. But usually those instrumentation sites left some trace, a concrete pad, anchor bolts, something. This road has nothing at the end of it. The other theory, and this is the one I find more interesting, is that the road was built to go somewhere that was never finished. Maybe it was supposed to connect to another road that was never built. Maybe it was the first stage of a project that got canceled. In the 1950s, there were all sorts of proposals floating around for the Mojave. Military installations, mining operations, even a planned community or two that never materialized. Whatever the case, the road has been sitting there for almost 70 years, going nowhere, and apparently nobody has ever bothered to ask why. Or if they did ask, nobody answered. I've driven a lot of desert roads, and most of them have a story. Someone built them for a reason. They lead to mines, to ranches, to springs, to towns that don't exist anymore. But they lead to something. This one doesn't. And that's what makes it strange. Not because there's anything sinister about it, but because in the desert, everything has a purpose. Water, roads, mines, trails, they all exist because someone needed them. A road that goes nowhere is a road that lost its reason. And out here, that feels wrong, like a sentence that just stops in the middle without. So there you have it. A mine that was sealed shut over 100 years ago for reasons that were never fully explained. And a road that was built during the Cold War to a destination that apparently doesn't exist. The Mojave is full of places like this. Places where the story just stops in the middle, and nobody bothered to write down the ending. I think that's part of what draws people out here. Not just the emptiness, but the feeling that the emptiness is hiding something. Every wash, every canyon, every abandoned mine has a story. Most of those stories are boring. A man dug a hole, didn't find anything, and left. But every once in a while, you come across one that doesn't add up, and those are the ones that stay with you. Maybe the mine is nothing. Maybe Duval saw some pack rat bones and spooked himself, and the sheriff overreacted. Maybe the road was built for something perfectly ordinary that just didn't get recorded because nobody thought it was important enough to write down. Or maybe not. If you know anything about either of these places, I'd love to hear about it. And if you've got your own Mojave mystery, leave it in the comments. There's always more out here to find. Thanks for listening.